So we've once again got another Mario trailer to work our way through. And yeah, this trailer looks pretty damn incredible. And so I guess there really is nothing else for it but to go straight into the trailer right now and then give a few more general thoughts afterwards. So yeah, let's get into it. So we start off the trailer with a quick look at the exterior of Bowser's castle. And it's looking pretty awesome. The animation quality, it's really good, the design of it looks incredible, and I like that they're really leaning into the cartoon ridiculousness of it all. Like, this is a true top tier, over the top villain lair. Anyway, we hear Luigi screaming and he finds himself dumped into a cage, suspended above a volcano surrounded by a bunch of other cages with different Mario characters. The highlight of this scene being a sweet and yet creepy and morbid little Luma, I think it's called, telling Luigi that there's no way out of the prison, except for the sweet release of death, in this cute little sing-song voice, and that gave me a good laugh. I think this character's going to be quite decently popular, even if they're only in one scene. That's going to be a very quotable line. And I gotta say before we go on, that every trailer I see for this film makes me feel more and more secure in my belief that this is all going to turn out for the best. Seriously, the trailers are so good. Also, I really love the voice of that King Penguin character. The contrast between this tiny little penguin with a crown and a cape, and then he has this deep, rich, manly voice. Oh. We then get to the logos, and the trailer really starts to kick off. We get another scene with Bowser addressing his army, and yeah, if nothing else, this film is going to be a visual masterpiece. It's so colourful and exciting, filled with so much detail. You can tell there's a lot of love and care that's been put into it, by people that actually played and enjoyed the games. They're not trying to change things, but instead they're trying to capture that magic, that super nostalgic vibe, and it's really working. Also, I really enjoyed that they openly referenced how deeply unclear it is what those tiny, spiky shell dudes are actually called. Are they Koopas? What are they? A quick Google search suggests that they're called Spinies. And yeah, who would have known that? Not me. And not Bowser either, apparently. We then have a few repeat scenes that we've seen in previous trailers. The Koopa army getting ready to wage war on the Mushroom Kingdom, the Koopa army invading the Penguin Planet, Peach assembling her council of toads, all of it looking good from a visual perspective, as I said. We then get a few different landscapes which seem faithful to the world, and then Mario speaks, and he talks about how he'd do anything to save his brother, and yeah, we'll come back to the voices in a little bit. But then we come to a really cool part of the trailer where Donkey Kong gets a fire flower and Mario eats a mushroom, and they make their way through a bunch of enemies and obstacles that are pretty much lifted right out of the side-scroller game. So yeah, that was awesome. And then they followed it up with a look at Mario Kart in a fun little chase scene on Rainbow Road, which felt exactly like Mario Kart, and it looked epic. And I'm honestly in a bit of shock as to how accurate it felt. Right down to driving in front of your opponent with the express intention of shooting a Koopa shell directly behind you and wiping them out. Oh, that's some premium nostalgia right there. It's just so good. This trailer is the best of the bunch, and I'm really excited. And this is so refreshing for me because at last, we're getting a film that's going to do Mario justice. I mean, it's an early call, yeah, but from what we've seen, this film is going to be really good, and at minimum, it should be as good as Sonic. But I honestly think it'll even surpass that. And Sonic was a decent film, all things considered. This film just looks a step above. Like it's been made with so much love and care. And on top of that, I feel like Illumination and the creative team probably feel like they have something to prove. Because I remember when this thing was first announced, it got a lot of pushback. And, well, people were pretty much acting like it was going to fail 100%. That it was a sure thing it was going to go up in smoke. And I will admit that at first I was very much in this camp, especially when they announced some of the casting choices. I just sat there, shaking my head, expecting that this would be a typical video game film where they only take minor, superficial elements of the franchise and they slap a half-baked story on top of that. But with every trailer, it's become clearer and clearer that this is not the reality. It's clear that the film's being made with a lot of care and passion, made by people that know the games, that know the world, that understand them, and they want to infuse that same vibe into the various different scenes. They're setting themselves up for a lot of success, and they're not shying away from it. They're not embarrassed by the film they're making. On top of that, the animation quality looks very high, and they're really taking advantage of the full scope of different Mario environments and characters. And I really like the score from what we've heard. I'm loving the revamped version of all the classic themes, and they just feel like they complete this thing. And honestly, I think we're at the point where there aren't that many major elements of the film that I'm overly worried about at all, except for the voice acting. And I think this was always going to be a bit of a problem, because obviously, you couldn't keep the over-the-top Italian voice. It wouldn't work for a film where he has to deliver a lot of dialogue. It would be way too silly. And so I'm not against changing up the voice a bit, the only problem being, I don't know, it doesn't give off Mario vibes. maybe Chris Pratt's voice is simply not a fit for the role, or maybe he's just a little bit too oversaturated these days, but regardless, I can't help but slightly grimace every time I hear him doing his lines. It just doesn't do it for me. Like, I think I can look past it, it isn't terrible, but I think I would have preferred some different casting. Beyond that, I don't know, I kind of liked her voice at first, but the more I'm hearing of Peach, the more wooden and lifeless she's starting to sound. And considering she seems like she's going to be playing a far more significant role in this film than she did in the early days of the character, that's not a good sign. She's Mario's love interest. She's probably going to be one of those characters that gives long-winded inspirational speeches. You know, just going off her role in the trailer. But those characters quickly become very tedious unless the performance is top tier. But the problem is this performance does not sound top tier. It's not terrible, but it's very dull, I suppose. And then, you know, there's probably the last voice I didn't like, being Donkey Kong. I mean, I heard him speak a little bit in the trailer when DK and Mario teamed up, and it really told me all I needed to know. I do not like that voice. I'm sure Seth Rogen's a very nice man, but I wish he was not Donkey Kong. And I honestly think they know it's not going to be that well received, hence why he's hardly spoken at all in any of the trailers or promotional material. They don't want to scare people off or sour anybody on the film prematurely, which is fair enough, because sometimes these things can be easily sabotaged by a small thing. You have a really solid film or trailer, but then if there's a voice that's hated or a story point that's hated, it spoils the rest for a lot of people. The hate train picks up steam, and then everything snowballs to a much bigger thing than it should have been originally. We've seen it happen before in the past, so I get why they're hiding it a bit. But even after its release, I can't see the voices dragging things down too much, even if they're not that good, because this thing just reeks of passion project. Visually, it looks great, it sounds great except for the voices, and I think the script is going to be good. And I honestly think it's going to blow up. I mean, maybe there'll be a franchise out of this thing, who knows? And I can't wait for its release. And so yeah, I guess that's the end of the video really. And I would like to remind you these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the trailer? You like it, hate it? You hyped for the film? Maybe not? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.